Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine just shutting down all your social media apps, cutting out all that constant daily noise, and completely disappearing for the next 90 days. I mean, no status updates, no scrolling, no showing off your weekend plans to people you barely know. Just 90 days of profound, unbroken isolation to achieve a total, literally unrecognizable life transformation. Now, I know it sounds a bit extreme, right? But the material we're unpacking in today's explainer suggests that this exact strategy is the ultimate, hidden secret shared by the world's most successful, self-made individuals.
So, when we ask, what if you completely disappeared for the next 90 days, we really need to clarify what disappearing actually means in this context. Look, we're not talking about packing up your bags and moving to a Himalayan ashram, although, hey, depending on the kind of week you've had, that might sound pretty amazing right now. But no, this is about a strategic, highly calculated retreat from modern distractions. It means hitting pause on WhatsApp, deleting Instagram off your phone, getting rid of Facebook, and just completely skipping those weekend parties and random hangouts. It's a temporary vanishing act from all the digital and social noise so you can actually find your true direction.
And frankly, this kind of retreat is desperately needed because of what we can call the modern youth's dilemma. Young people today are just facing this overwhelming, exhausting amount of confusion. You're constantly being pulled in a million different directions. On one side, you've got this immense family pressure to just play it safe and get a secure 9-to-5 job. But then on the other side, your friends are constantly hyping up the idea of building a startup and chasing million-dollar valuations. Then you open your phone, right? And you see influencers flexing what is honestly often fake wealth and massive brand deals, all while career gurus are constantly preaching that you need thousands of LinkedIn connections to even survive. It is just an absolute overload of contradictory advice.
So the crucial point is understanding the stark difference between these two environments. Society constantly tells you to seek crowds and connections, but the harsh reality is that constantly chasing networks and trying to keep up with the crowd, it really only leads to profound distraction and deeply, deeply average results. The true environment for extraordinary, true outlier success is actually privacy and focus. You see, you don't need to master 10 different things, you need absolute mastery over just one. And that level of mastery is literally only possible when you step away from the noise.
10,000. That is how many times Thomas Edison failed while trying to invent the light bulb. 10,000 times. Now, just imagine if Edison lived in our modern world, completely surrounded by endless social chatter. With every single failure, he would have faced relatives and friends telling him to just quit, mocking his efforts, and comparing him to other people who are already making money. If he had listened to that constant societal noise, he would have never changed the world. He succeeded precisely because he chose total isolation and unwavering focus over public opinion.
And that brings us directly to pillar one of this challenge: total focus and goal clarity. To make this work, you must decide exactly what you want out of life and make it your singular obsession.
Think about Henry Ford. When he was building his very first car, people literally thought he had lost his mind. They called him crazy. But Ford didn't waste time trying to argue with them or seek their approval. Instead, he just locked himself away in a small workshop. He worked day and night, completely ignoring the outside world. And this brilliantly illustrates how deep focus actually works, because he later noted that in that deep isolation, it felt as though the entire universe was helping him. Ideas and solutions just flowed effortlessly. But the second he stepped out and mingled with crowds, that clarity vanished. You just cannot be a jack of all trades or dabble in 5 different projects at once if you want outlier success. So, to achieve that level of Ford-like focus, you absolutely need a daily clarity routine. Once you have your one specific goal, you have to read it aloud 3 times a day. Once when you wake up, once in the afternoon, and once right before you go to sleep. But here's the catch. You can't just read the words like a robot. You have to actively visualize it. You must imagine that the goal has already been achieved. Doing this consistently actively programs your subconscious mind. It literally wires your brain for absolute success.
But we have to be realistic here. You need to be prepared for the reality of this timeline. Research shows it takes about 90 days to really solidify a permanent habit. Days 1 through 30, they are going to be a massive psychological struggle. Your mind will wander, your friends will text you, and you will desperately want to quit. However, if you can just push through, days 31 to 60 become noticeably easier as the routine sets in, and by days 61 to 90, it's amazing. You aren't even forcing it anymore, you're operating in pure flow, and the hard work has just become second nature.
So once your mind is locked in, we move to pillar 2, mastering specialized knowledge. This is where you dedicate 4 to 6 hours every single day strictly to learning your craft.
To really understand the power of this, let's look at John D. Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire. When people asked him about his immense wealth, his answer was brilliantly simple. He said he didn't know a little bit about everything. Instead, he became a walking encyclopedia of only one thing, the oil industry. He learned how it was extracted, refined, distributed, the whole shebang. He completely ignored every single other industry and distraction out there. He fiercely specialized, and more importantly, he immediately applied what he learned. It proves that applied, highly specialized knowledge is true power.
Now, learning is great, but executing is where most people completely fail, bringing us to Pillar 3, discipline over motivation. Because motivation, it's kind of a myth. Take the story of this young guy who wanted to be a writer, but he was always complaining that his motivation just kept evaporating. So he was given a singular, unbreakable rule. Write 1,000 words every single day. No excuses, no sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike. He literally wasn't allowed to get up from his chair until those 1,000 words were done. By applying this exact rule to his life and just bulldozing past all his internal excuses, he successfully finished and published a book within his 90-day window. That, right there, is the raw power of discipline.
To build this kind of discipline into your own life, you have to master the difference between urgent tasks and important tasks. Urgent tasks are the phone calls, the sudden emails, the minor crises that scream for your immediate attention but don't actually move the needle at all. Important tasks are the deep work that actually pushes you closer to your long-term goal. So the strategy here is a nightly habit. Write down 3 strictly important tasks to execute the very next day and then completely ignore the merely urgent tasks until those 3 are totally finished.
And that flows perfectly right into Pillar 4, deep reflection, in the concept of the mastermind with self. Because you can't just blindly work, you need to evaluate where you're going.
The great industrialist Andrew Carnegie absolutely championed this through what he called his deep thinking hour. Every single night, he would spend 1 full hour lying in bed in absolute silence. No books, no music, and obviously no phones. He used this time solely to reflect on his business, his specific goals, and his daily missteps. He claimed that giving his subconscious mind this silent space to literally talk to him provided him with warnings and brilliant ideas that were far more valuable than an entire day of hard physical work.
But here's the thing. You won't be able to hear your subconscious at all if your environment is loud and toxic. That brings us to Pillar 5, the ultimate environment detox.
There are 2 main toxins you really have to watch out for. First, the negative dream killers. You know the type, the constant complainers and the people obsessed with useless gossip. You must distance yourself from them immediately. Second is the social media illusion. This is that fake highlight reel world that makes you feel like everyone else is hyper-successful while you're just falling behind. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the strict rule for these 90 days. Limit social media to an absolute maximum of 45 minutes a day and completely dodge all toxic gossip. Now, let's be entirely honest with each other here. Pulling this off is mentally brutal. Your brain's going to fight you, your friends will definitely question you, and the urge to just quit will be massive. So, relying on willpower alone is a guaranteed recipe for failure. You need a highly practical survival strategy to keep you anchored when the isolation gets incredibly tough. This is exactly where the milestone strategy comes in to build up your resilience. You don't look at the massive 90-day mountain. That's way too overwhelming. Instead, you break it into smaller, celebrated milestones. When you hit day 7, reward yourself with something small and personal, like ordering your absolute favorite pizza. By day 15, deepen the habit by formally maintaining your daily reflection journal. And when you hit day 30, allow yourself a small, controlled gathering with a few friends to celebrate hitting your groove. Celebrating these micro-wins keeps your motivation incredibly high.
But beware of the deadliest trap in this entire explainer. The moment you start seeing a little bit of success, maybe around day 30 or 40, you'll be tempted to relax. You'll ask yourself, can I just take this weekend off for a little fun? The answer must be no. Momentum is everything. When you have it, the hard work actually feels easy. But if you break that momentum just for a weekend of fun, starting back up at 0 on Monday morning is absolutely agonizing. Whatever you do, don't break the chain.
If you can actually commit to this, the results are staggering. The source material calls this a 90-day vanvas, which essentially means a period of total, dedicated exile. If you step into this isolation, put your head down, and execute without excuses, you will return completely transformed. Your posture will change, your confidence will surge, and you'll be ready to conquer the world. So, I leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on.
Who is the completely unrecognizable, wildly confident person you are going to see looking back at you in the mirror exactly 90 days from right now?